Today on This Week in Startups, Evan Schneyer, it rhymes like mayor, the CEO and co-founder of travel inspiration site Wanderfly is with us. They're going to talk about their phenomenal growth, the travel industry, their latest round, and of course their Webby nomination. Tyler is with us as well. He's in studio, back from his world travels. He's going to drop some insights, some knowledge, perhaps even a Skweal reference. All that and more right now on This Week in Startups.
That's what it's all about, man. They said money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you. Yeah. Money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you.
Hello everybody, welcome to another This Week in Startups. My name is Jason Calacanis. I am a serial entrepreneur, angel investor, writer of emails that get people sometimes in a tizzy. I am here with my faithful sidekick, Tyler Crowley.
Couldn't you include link baiter in there somewhere?
You know what? When I created the concept
Master of link baiting.
when I created the concept of link baiting, there wasn't a term for it.
Right.
They previously went back and said, the whole concept of link baiting.
Is this in your Wikipedia profile?
Yeah, somebody should add it.
Really should be.
Link baiting was attributed to myself and Dave Weiner because we were cantankerous bloggers at times. Where something would get you upset as a blogger, you get a little sand in the oyster, you get a little, thorn in the side, and you blog about it. Hey, a little fiery, if you will.
Sure.
And then people said, wow, that post got so many inbound links. That's good SEO. All you have to do is get in a fight with somebody or be pissed off about something, and you've now got traffic. And then the term link baiting. And the crazy thing is I don't even get credit for it. I mean, could somebody go to link baiting and just put I created that? And then also on my Wikipedia page, if you could add that I was the first person inducted into the SEO Hall of Fame, that would be great as well. I can always count on the Jason Nation to vandalize the Wikipedia on my behalf. What a great show we're going to have today. Evan Schneyer is here. He is the CEO and co-founder of Wanderfly. But before we get to the interview, let me just say thank you to everybody who signed up for Squarespace and that contest we did. We sent a whole bunch of bags of swag here out, and it was great. I saw a bunch of people got them. Take a moment to subscribe to our YouTube channel and participate there, because everybody's just trolling in the comments like, oh, wow, that host is so hot. I mean, they're talking about you, but we'd like to get other discussions there than people talking about how beautiful Tyler is and his physical presence. That's how YouTube is sometimes for, youtube.com/show/This Week in Startups. Yeah. So, This Week in Startups is brought to you by GoToMeeting. Everybody knows GoToMeeting. You can hold unlimited meetings for one flat rate. I use GoToMeeting. I use it for the launch conference extensively, not just for communicating with one person, but communicating with many people. Sometimes Tyler would be on one of his remotes outside of the United States. He would be on the call. I'm on the call. Kieran's on the call. Krut's on the call. And we're all getting all this great, flawless communication over the internet. Attend from your Mac, PC, or iPad. I haven't used the iPad. I'm going to try that one time. That's kind of baller, right?
You just made me think of another kind of benefit that I wasn't really conscious of, was the fact that nobody's firewalls or hotels or anybody seem to have any trouble with it.
No, I've never. I've done it on MiFi. I did it on my Verizon MiFi last time.
There's other ones that you may use that are dependable. They're known, but sometimes you end up having the firewall problem.
The thing about GoToMeeting is they've been around for a long time. They've been #1 for a long time. And I only endorse products that I actually use on this program. We have an approved list. Mo 3000 cannot sell to people who are not on the approved list. That's why he comes to me. Jason, I have these guys. They make an electronic cigarette. Do you think that's something that you could endorse? And I'm like, are you out of your mind? Electronic cigarette? Although now with Full Tilt being out of the United States, maybe I need that electric cigarette company to put me into the main event. We'll see what happens.
That would be an interesting interview. Get those guys on.
Full Tilt guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it would have to be outside the United States.
Right.
But it's actually not a bad idea.
Right.
Anyway, we could have them come in through GoToMeeting. We're having a GoToMeeting contest. And this contest, I have to tell you, is a brilliant contest. I mean, I came up with it, so it's sort of inherent in it. But sign up for GoToMeeting. Remember to use the promo code START. That's critical, S-T-A-R-T. That means they are getting some value from their sponsorship. Then send your registration to contests at This Weekend. If you send your registration to contest@thisweekin.com, you will be entered to win a 30-minute GoToMeeting with Tyler Crowley. And me. I'm going to come too. But Tyler Crowley for 30 minutes, Tyler.
You just want to scoop in on all my good, juicy stuff I keep
private.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, yes. And this meeting will then be released to Twist audience. What? So we'll talk about your startup for 30 minutes, and then if you want, it's up to you, we'll release it. Release it. Us, Tyler and I, talking about your company for 30 minutes, and we'll release it to the iTunes feed and put it on our YouTube channel. It'll be like a commercial for you guys for 30 minutes. Just sign up for GoToMeeting and use the promo code START. Send your receipt to contest@thisweekin.com.
The singing mode 3000?
Yes.
Okay.
Jason, I want to tell you that the singing thing, it was awesome. And I'm not just saying that because you're awesome. It's because it was, in fact, awesome. Can you do that for MailChimp? I'm sure they would appreciate some singing. I told him if MailChimp signs up again, he was coming in here with that monkey outfit. We're putting him in a chimp suit because they're putting his future kids through college. MailChimp is a great sponsor, too. But thank you, GoToMeeting, and everybody go thank GoToMeeting. On the program today, Evan Schneyer, that rhymes with mayor, is the CEO and co-founder of Wanderfly. Wanderfly is a wonderful, wonderful travel site that I think, I'm trying to remember who showed it to me first. But, it's like one of those things when you're an angel investor. 5 people email you within a 72-hour period, like, oh, you have to see this. It's super cool. What do you think?
Well, that's usually a strategy that they've like, hey, I'm going to reach out to Jason Calacanis.
I don't think that's it.
Get their ducks in a row, and then that's my strategy.
That's a good one. I like that strategy, and if it is, kudos. We'll find out later. But anyway, I start getting all this inbound. Hey, check this out. It's pretty cool. It's a social proof thing. And I look at it and I said, you know what? This is the first thing I've seen that really rethinks travel and how you book travel. And it is exactly what I was looking for. And when I see a product like that, by a team of entrepreneurs who look like they got their ducks in a row, I just want to invest. And I actually wound up putting a little bit of money into this company. It's a really cool company. And it came out of a business school contest of all things. I've never read the business plan. Evan, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Now, Evan, there's actually a business plan for Wanderfly?
There actually is. It didn't actually come out of the business school. Several of us were alums of Wharton at Penn and undergrad, and got invited to. They send out an email to invite people to submit business plans, and we had the idea about a month before we got that email, and said, hey, we've been working on it, doing some research. Why not just submit to the competition? And we wouldn't have written I was talking with Karen earlier, we wouldn't have written a full business plan before writing a line of code had it not been for this competition. But having the competition as a motivator actually was quite helpful. It really kind of forced us to think all the way through as much as we possibly could, and really, as you said, get our ducks in a row from day one.
So writing a business plan, not always the worst thing in the world. Obviously doesn't replace building a business. So what was the idea, and what is the idea that I fell in love with and so many other angel investors, because I know you got a pretty good roster. What is the core of the idea? I'm going to be showing the site in a moment, but tell us, what was the idea you had coming in, and what did you get to?
The idea was very simple. It was there should be a site that gives you ideas for where to go based on what you like and how much you have to spend. That's it. Right. And from there, of course, not only is execution always difficult, but what we found is it's a simple idea, but with a complex technology. And so what we found in doing the full business plan and all the research was that it's actually a fairly obvious idea. We would tell a lot of people, and they'd say, "Oh yeah, I thought of that too," or "Why doesn't that exist?" And the why doesn't it exist is because it's difficult to keep the idea and the experience so simple. When building such a complex back end. Basically.
Right. I mean, so this idea is how a normal person would book travel. I like X, Y, and Z. I'm leaving at this time. I want to spend this much money. What should I go see? And you wind up doing that research backwards. You say, okay, I'm going to look. I think I heard Costa Rica's cool. Does that have what I want? It's all backwards, and nobody had built this site.
Yeah.
Did you find anybody who even tried when you did your research?
We found a few who sort of tried, but most of the attempts were fairly half-assed.
Yeah.
Or if they weren't half-assed, they were just so different in their execution that they fell flat. Ultimately, there were a few kind of partial attempts on some of the OTA's parts, but more generally as marketing campaigns. So,
Yeah.
you know, the set of possibilities was like 30 places, not thousands.
Okay.
You know, and other executions were just way more editorial and very content heavy and just kind of laborious to actually use. And what we found from day one as part of that idea, I guess that initial idea kind of led us into realizing that inspiration or discovery was really the space that we were going to be in. And to be inspiring and to allow someone to discover something, it has to be simple and fun. And so the experience of actually presenting the results and the suggestions has to be every bit as easy, if not easier, than doing the actual search. And so the others that we found who were out there, and there really were only like 2 or 3, just kind of fell flat on that second page or that second step where you could run a pretty easy search, but then you just get flooded with tons of information and it immediately becomes work.
I agree with that, because when I always look at a site, somebody pitches me on search, I say, okay, you want to pitch me on the search engine, this discovery engine, whichever. Okay, let me do an actual search, and then I actually read the results. I mean, that's where people break down. That's where Blacko actually did pretty good. So let's go through an actual example here. I've got Wanderfly pulled up. We can pull up my desktop. And so tell us what we're looking at here.
Well, what we do is, you know, we make it, we want that search to be as close as possible to, as you said, to where the consumer, where the user is actually starting. It's, you know, what do I like to do and how much can I spend? So those are the kind of the 2 key things. Right. Obviously, we need to know where you're leaving from, which is I can see on your monitor, we're auto detecting. Yeah. You know, so even the budget, you know, simple UI. It's a slider. We don't want people to have to type in stuff manually. It's just the whole thing should be fun and interesting from the beginning. Okay,
so let's say I want to spend about $2,000 a person. Let's say I want to go in early June, and let's say it's going to be like a weekend trip. So I'm going to go for maybe 4 days.
Yeah.
And I want to explore anywhere.
Yeah.
Now I go down here to these little chiclets and I start picking these, right?
Yep. Yep. So you can choose as many of them as you want. We find a lot of people, you know, choose 2 or 3.
Okay. So I know I have a family. I know my wife likes the spa. And yeah, let's say we wanted to hit the beach. That would be cool. And we won't go for luxury this time. I need to save a little cash. Let's say we definitely need to have a casino so Daddy can make some money. And that's it. And then I just click Get Going.
Yep.
And now you got this nice, beautiful little graphic that says you're working.
Yep.
Did it actually, let me ask you a question. Did you actually need to do that graphic, or did you just do that for fun?
Sort of both. We did need to do it, and the search, as it got more and more complex as we built it and then iterated on it a few times after launch, it got a little bit slower, and so it became more important. We're actually about to launch version 2 of pretty much the whole site, and the search is dramatically faster. So we're actually ripping that interstitial out. But actually, it's funny. You know, it's one of those features we all kind of sort of think of as a throwaway a little bit, and but several people have said they love the little interstitial and they like the tips.
Yeah.
So we may try to find a place to work in some of those tips, some of that content.
That's like that little beautiful product design that makes a difference. So here, let's look at the results. First result, Miami. That totally makes sense. Going to the beach for the weekend. I know there's casinos there, and I know it's good for families. Plenty of stuff to do. And so in terms of how the page is designed, we get like a little bit of news and weather, all the sort of essentials you'd want.
Yeah.
And I guess it's trying to poll my friends here to see if my friends have been to Miami.
It is. Are you actually logged in through Facebook? It looks like you are.
Yeah, I'm logged in through Facebook. I'm getting the spinning wheel of death, so that happens during every demo. I get some photos of Miami. I get a recommendation from a hotel powered by Hotels.com. How did you make that recommendation? Based on money and family?
Yeah, it's based on kind of the price point that you said you are looking for. Yeah, that's another thing that we do. You know, we try to make everything really as simple and fun as possible, and again, not flood you with a ton of info. So if you actually go into that hotel, you know, if you actually dig for more, you can search through a bunch of hotels. But we'll basically grab hotels results from Hotels.com and kind of do our own sort of algorithmic sort on it.
I see, and you
price and distance from city center and so forth.
And I can drill down there, and it does a little nice pop-up. And then down here, I see all my activities, and I can click on the subcategories here, see the spas that you've selected for me,
Yep.
I love the little cards. Is that what you call them, cards?
Yeah, we call them cards. That's actually another thing that is going away. A number of people.
Oh no!
I know. It's kind of hit or miss. Some people think it's way too heavy and flashy, and it's kind of heavy.
No, it's awesome. I love the photos. What are you kidding me? I didn't know. Look at Everglades National Park. That looks so cool. I want to go to that.
Well, wait till you see what it's getting replaced with.
Oh, what's it going to be replaced by?
Well, it's going to be replaced just by a simpler, kind of easier, more fun way of just getting the idea. Because you started to say a second ago that if you look at that page, there's a bunch of different components.
Yeah.
And what we want these pages to be is really kind of a one-shot, kind of like a person would say, you know, here's you should check out Miami, and you should do it for these reasons. Here's who you know there or who's been there. Here's, you know, some stuff you can do there. Here's a good flight. Here's a good hotel. Yeah. And it should be kind of that bam, 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 that simple, you know, because you haven't asked for Miami specifically. So we want to get you excited about it, but we also want to make it really casual to say, if you don't like Miami, just go to the next result.
Yeah. And so here's the beach. That's awesome. Here's all the beaches. And I see you're pulling data from Foursquare and Yelp.
Yeah, we're actually pulling data from over, I think, 10 different activity providers right now. That's what we call these guys, kind of the local content providers. Yelp, Foursquare, Nile Guide, Find Eat Drink. There's a lot of some of about half of them are kind of off-the-shelf APIs, and half are custom deals that we have set up. Eventful too. And you know, there's kind of a constant pipeline of additional providers that we're always integrating.
Here's the important stuff: a bunch of casinos, and here is so now if I don't like Miami or want to see what other choices are, there's a right arrow here, and I can click that, and now I will see Cancun comes up as an option. That makes sense.
Yep.
Good for.
So what we find is a lot of people actually kind of just flip through, and again, that's why it's so important to get that single shot. Right now, you get the flight and hotel in the shot, but the activities are kind of buried right now on the page. So we're kind of improving just the overall layout and presentation so that it's, you know, Cancun, and you immediately see kind of the key elements in kind of a preview version, but it's really easy and casual to just flip through and get interested in something.
I see they had Las Vegas, you got Chicago, you got Phoenix, and Virginia Beach. All great choices that are close, I guess. If I had done more days, would it have done international?
It would, yeah. That's actually one of those kind of things. It's a constant challenge to keep it simple, but start exposing some of the complex stuff that actually people appreciate that is going on under the hood. So we do kind of limit how far we'll suggest going based on how many days you have to travel.
So if I were to search for 14 days, it would change. Give me some other options, I guess.
Yeah, and budget too. We kind of have an indexed version similar to what Faircast does. So we have a sense of how expensive it is to get between any two places in the world, and so we can incorporate that in our search. So if you do a much kind of less constrained search and say, you know, 14 days and 5,000, then you'll start getting Asia and all over the world, really. And
here's another interesting view. I can hit the chiclets, and I can see, I guess, instead of paging through them and flipping through them like on an iPad, I can just see everything in a chiclet. That's kind of interesting as well. So let's go. So you have this idea that there should be a better way to search for what you're going to do on vacation, and then what comes next? I mean, you've done all this research. You write a business plan. What does the business plan lead you to believe? I mean, obviously there's a market opportunity because nobody's doing this. There's a market need because people like to do this.
Yep.
How do you determine in a business plan if it's going to be successful or not?
Oh, well, that's just the ... profit step, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the point we're at now. What the business plan yielded is, it looks like I froze. Can you still
you're
see
good.
me?
Yeah, I can still see you. Yep.
What the business plan yielded, I'd say, was a bunch of ideas and research on the different business models that work in this space and just kind of in online media and content in general, and how recommendation engines make money. And so now we're at the process of kind of looking at those different opportunities we've identified and figuring out which is really right for us. I think one of the ones that people jump to prematurely is they assume, oh, how many bookings are you generating and how many people are going through and purchasing, because it's kind of the obvious one, you know, that happens way down in the funnel. But that's not actually where we are. we are at that starting point where people are just looking to explore and kind of get excited about possible destinations and vacations that they can take in somewhere, I'd say, between 4 to 12 weeks from now. So a lot of people are using our site much earlier in the process, as we want them to, and they're having fun browsing and coming back.
But that's also poses a problem. If you're the place where they start,
right,
and not the place where they finish, that means you don't actually book the transaction. They come to you for the ideas, and then they go to hotels.com to actually book, or Expedia.
Right. And so what we're doing now is shifting the focus to business models that are more in line with that way of using the site, with more along the lines of sponsored content, and people are coming to us for ideas, in the same way that they're going to Google for information.
Right.
And so there's a lot of opportunity there to work in suggestions and have it be paid in some way or another. Of course, we want to keep the we know that the honesty of the site is crucial. So it's not, we wouldn't suggest something without telling someone it's sponsored.
Yeah, you can't screw up the integrity of the suggestions, right?
Integrity is the word I was looking for. Yeah. But there's a lot of opportunity there. And I think so. That's I think where we're headed in the next 6 to 12 months or so, as we really gain more traffic and additional user engagement.
Yeah.
Because the challenge, of course, with that one is you just need a lot of eyeballs. Even though we're pretty happy with the kind of trajectory we're on, at having just broken about 100,000 monthly uniques last month, you need a multiple of that to become interesting to sponsors. And so the other piece that we're really looking at right now is kind of being a technology provider, or somewhere between a technology and user experience provider. A lot of our partners that we are working with to get content on our site are also interested in the experience and the ideas that we're providing, and interested in kind of having some piece of Wanderfly, whether it's a little widget or whether it's just the recommendation algorithm on their site. And so we've had a lot of good traction in discussions with some big names, New York Times, AOL, National Geographic, to do some kind of technology integration or platform kind of deal.
So like all startups that actually build a good product, you're faced with multiple choices. I could be a consumer brand that makes money through a number of different models. It could be either affiliate revenue, it could be charging the customer, or I could become a service provider to some big site that already has traffic. So you're sort of drowning in potential opportunities. How do you make a decision, and how do you communicate that decision to, say, your investors?
Yeah, well, I think one of the biggest factors is trying to not to think what do we do ultimately, or 5 years or 10 years from now. It's kind of what's our time frame, and even that can be flexible and can somewhat depend on what the investors and the board and the founders want. How important is it to make money in 6 months or in 12 months versus in 3 years? And the answer in terms of which of these avenues we take now really depends on what our horizon is.
Yeah.
So I think what we've been thinking about is that, and the money that we just raised in early this year was kind of with about a 12-month horizon in mind, and with the goal of not necessarily becoming profitable, but starting to create real business. So if 12 months is our target to both kind of ramp up on user engagement, but also start to prove that we can make money and see the machine working, I think that becomes easier to navigate instead of just kind of this nebulous someday we'll make money and profit.
So I always hear from travel startups that they want to do affiliate revenue. However, you only make $5 if you sell a plane ticket, but with a hotel you might make $10 a night. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot more money in hotels. And yeah, it's generally percentage based, and it escalates on the number of sales that you're driving. But that too, it still kind of jumps the gun in terms of assuming what kind of model we're going to actually be in, and it pushes because it looks like all the money's there, and that is a real challenge to say, if we're going to go for that, let's go for it. But then how does that affect our business too?
Yeah, I mean, you have to first build a product that people fall in love with.
Exactly.
My suggestion was, and tell me what you think of this, because I was looking at Carwoo just last week, which was actually a TechCrunch 40 or 50 company back in the day. You basically pay them like $70. They negotiate or help you negotiate without revealing your name with 5 vendors. Really great idea. $70 seems worth it to not have to waste 5 days going out to deal with salespeople and just negotiate the deal through that. Any thought on having a concierge type negotiation platform where I could pay you $100 to plan my vacation and make sure I've exhausted all the options and gotten a really good deal?
We've talked about something like that, kind of like a premium model or a freemium, I guess. Where I guess more on the we've talked about more on having some piece of the site for free, but then having premium stuff like that you could pay for. That, of course, also would. But what you're suggesting would change the business too. Yeah. Because we need people who can actually do, who can actually service those requests. Yeah. I think the way we've thought about it, where there may be some opportunity there, is the sort of let anyone be their own travel agent kind of thing, which is kind of where we're headed. Getting into some UGC and letting people, even the casual browsers, start to identify where they've been and where they want to go. And the more kind of advanced users to actually compile and sort of curate those lists and trips. And once you've spent an hour, creating the perfect Europe trip for food and wine lovers, that on a budget, then you could actually then promote that trip and maybe sell it to others. So it does kind of get into the e-commerce play a bit, but it's sort of empowering our users to be those salespeople and those agents.
It's a brilliant idea. I mean, if I could create a platform and then create a landing page for my version of going to, like Tyler's version of going to Tokyo, and you purchased it knowing that Tyler's going to get $25, I think that might be very motivating for people. It's sort of like reintroducing the people who have been disintermediated, or the function that's been disintermediated.
The travel agents.
The travel agent. And people sort of really miss it.
But all the books, like the Go Europe books, those are all guys, essentially people who've been doing that in paperback for years. Right. That's a whole industry that you could digitize.
Yeah, it's almost closing the loop between...
And then rate who's got the best guide for Paris.
Yeah, and what people's satisfaction with it are.
Yeah, then you're additionally motivated to write the best guide for Paris. Then
how come you don't have Airbnb pulled in as a provider?
We just haven't gotten to it yet. It's on the list, though. It's actually among in that there's about 15 additional providers that we have in our product backlog. And Airbnb is in the top 3, I think.
Oh, awesome. So tell me about the raise. What was your goal with the raise? When did it start? And how did you get it to, who invested how much, et cetera?
Sure. The goal, we hit our goal. We aimed to raise $1 million, and we raised it. And it actually came in kind of 2 phases. We initially thought we were going to do the kind of ground up approach. It didn't. We talked to a lot of. We did it mainly through AngelList. So I definitely can't speak positively enough about AngelList. I mean, it was just tremendously helpful. Obviously, that's how we found you and many other names. That's how we got in touch with George Zachary too from CRV, and they were one of the first. They and Startup Angel, David Diamond, were among the first to really say I'm in. And once a few people do, it snowballs and snowballs. And once we had about 60% of the round committed, we said, okay, there's no clear leader, so we're going to go out and close with the people who have committed, and then continue to kind of fill up the bucket. And then pretty much right after we did that, we found another leader who came in for the rest, which was MentorTech Ventures, which felt like a good fit. Because all of the founders are from Penn undergrad, and MentorTech is, I don't believe there's an official affiliation, but they only invest in Penn companies. So they really liked us, both because of the opportunity, of course, and also because we were all from Penn. And so that ended up being kind of a second closing, and they came in and completed the round.
And so you used AngelList, which meant you got involved with Naval, I take it? So
Yep.
How did you wind up meeting Naval? How does one get on his radar?
That's a good question. I actually, Christy, one of my co-founders, was sort of leading the charge in the investment process, and she got. I think they may have contacted her. She was responding to most of the initial inquiries, and so I'm not sure how she ended up getting in contact with them.
And so here is your angel. Am I supposed to even show the? I probably shouldn't show this. I'm just trying to see if there's anything in here that is like valuation sensitive or anything. No, it's not. Okay. Yeah, you can show it. So you can see here Wanderfly and a bunch of investors. This is what AngelList looks like for people who don't know. Basically, you can see here how many people are following it, how many people got intros, the detail views. And you can actually see here who the investors are. Maybe not perfect, but oh, you got Dave Marin to invest as well from Path.
Yeah.
That's an incredible get. And George Zachary was the one, I think, introduced it to me. So how does that build? People talk a little bit about getting some anchors, you know, specific people with high profile. Who was that in the round? Was that George Zachary, I guess?
Yeah, that was George Zachary, and we knew that he was a big name, and he was just he was kind of like you. It was just kind of committed right on the spot, and we were almost shocked at how easy it was. We didn't even need to pitch him. He kind of was sold already when we walked in the room, and it was just an advocate from day one. And so we obviously used his name and said, you know, he's on board. And several others did say, oh, well, if he's on board, you know, I'm in too.
Yeah,
and,
I mean, that was the problem I had. I looked at it and I said, I'm trying not to do any angel investments at the time. And I was like, this is so good, you guys are making it impossible for me not to. And I think I committed on the spot, yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, basically, I think what I use you guys as an example of, if you have a beautiful product that functions really well and does what you say it does, even if it's something that just seems simple, mm-hmm. it really does make it a lot easier for an angel to make a decision, because you look at it and you say, hey, this is a great UI that accomplishes a need in the, you know, that's an expressed need, a beautiful execution with a great domain name and a great UI. It really, really comes down to this, people. Like, you have a great domain name, have a great problem to solve, and have a great execution. And the execution in our industry equals UI. It's that mm-hmm. simple. Mm-hmm. I mean, was that a big focus? You guys had the site built before you raised the money, right?
Yeah, before we raised this round. Yeah, I mean, I think it's everything, I would say. I think Karen actually asked what our competitive advantage was, and the best thing I could say is the UI, or I mean, I word it as user experience, but kind of the same thing. And it's you know, there are best practices and stuff, but there's also kind of just an X factor that I'm really pleased to see that users think we have. You know, that we're getting described as, a lot of people actually have said to me that Wanderfly is fun. And so it's not just simple, but it's actually fun and kind of inspiring. And I've never heard any other travel site described that way.
Yeah.
You know, we know that's the difference between using a site and not using a site. So if you have that, you have to keep it and then constantly build on it and make it better.
And speaking of fun and exciting and inspirational, Squarespace. Was that a good transition?
He threw you even a better one than making it better. You said, you know, someone else.
And you know somebody else who's making it better is Squarespace. Squarespace.com/twist. Get a 2-week trial. Squarespace is how I build my websites. Launch was on that, the Launch Conference, the Launch Newsletter, and the Launch Hackathon, which we haven't really talked about too much publicly. I put it on the footer, but essentially we're going to get a bunch of hackers together to build stuff for a weekend. Should be fun. Squarespace is an awesome platform for using this. I use the product. Again, we only will allow somebody to partner, and they really are partners with the show, and talk about their product. An advertisement, essentially, but it's an advertisement of a pre-screened list of under 100 products. If you're not on that list of 100 products that Tyler and I have built, you cannot sponsor the show. Squarespace is right at the top of that list because I use it, and I use it every week. You pick a great template. There's tons of them there. It's got like metrics. The pricing is really affordable. You know, $12 a month, whatever. I mean, if you have I mean, I know there was a lot of advanced people in the audience who are building. If you're building Wanderfly, maybe you're not going to build Wanderfly with this, but you've got friends who are who, you know, have small businesses. You have friends who want to build a personal website, or they're consultants, etc. This is where you send them, so that, you know, when people ask you to build a website, and it's like being a doctor in the family.
Do you have time to build me a website?
Exactly. Yeah. And you say, I don't exactly have time to build your website, but I will show you the path. Sit them down for half an hour, sign them up with a free trial, squarespace.com/twist. and just set them up and then say, if you want to keep going, you'll see the magic. Go get a free 2-week trial by going to squarespace.com/twist, 24/7 support team, full-featured iPad app, and they recently upgraded the iPhone app. I mean, it's really easy to use. Beautiful professional-looking websites for your blog, photo gallery, large or small business. Go to squarespace.com/twist, and you'll get your free 14-day trial. It is awesome. I love Squarespace. This is one of those beautiful products. I am so excited to have them as a sponsor. I mean, it's just coming to the show and having GoToMeeting and Squarespace as sponsors. It just makes my life easy because I can talk about them all day because I use the products all day. Oh. Is Skweal going to put their blog on Squarespace? What do you think?
If we do a blog, it would be on Squarespace.
Okay,
yes.
All right. But you're very low key. Yes. You don't want people to know exactly what the plan is. So Evan, you did not go to Wharton, correct?
I did.
You went to undergrad, but you didn't go to the business school. But you did decide to write the business plan. How did you even get started with that? Did you write a book like, here's business plans for dummies, or did you get like a copy of them? I mean, I always tell people, don't waste your time with these business plans because angel investors don't read them. You said they have value. Who's correct?
Well, I mean, there's no one way, but I actually had taken a class in undergrad at Wharton in writing a business plan where we had to write a full business plan for a mock idea, and some of those ideas did actually become little startups that the students were starting. And I found that class really frustrating because it was very prescriptive. It was, it kind of forced you to do all of these sections, regardless of what the nature of your business is and who your customer is and so forth. And this was actually kind of a little bit vindicating because there was an opportunity. I felt like I knew how to do it and I knew what the pieces and what the things were to think about. But now we could kind of do it for our business and if a section didn't make sense, we didn't waste time on it. But we hit all the key pieces, and so. And you can also Google business plan and get a million templates. So it's not actually that hard to get the list of things to think about.
How much time did you put into it? Be honest. 100 hours, 50 hours? What do you think?
I'm thinking. I think we actually put in. It was 1 week where 3 of us worked a good, probably a 60-hour week.
All right, so about 200 hours. How much time did it take to build the 1.0 of the site?
An orders of magnitude more.
Yeah, 10 weeks. Looking back on it, it was 1 week of your life. It's essentially research, and you put it down in paper trying to explain it. It's not the worst. I'm not saying business plans are the worst in the world. What is the worst thing in the world is doing a business plan and then not executing on it, and just spending all your time living inside that business plan. So I think there's a happy medium. I love doing research.
Yeah, totally. I think if it hadn't been for the competition, we wouldn't have gone through the kind of formality of writing the full business plan. We probably would have done half of it, done all the key thinking and written it down, but not done the. I mean, part of that. Probably a good 40% of that week was the polish and making sure that it was really presentable and branded nicely and so forth. And if it was just an internal thing, we wouldn't have done
that. What's the goal? I mean, do you want to just build this and then get bought by Expedia or Travelocity? You want to build something to last? What's the goal as an entrepreneur?
Personally, or for the team, or I mean, it evolves. Yeah. I think we went into it with I'd say probably, to be honest, with the dream of we're going to do this and it's going to take a year and then we'll all be millionaires.
Yeah.
By some acquisition, and there's still that appeal if it happens, but there's also we launched and got 10 times the traffic from day one that we ever imagined, and now it's climbing, and there's all these additional things we want to build, and getting a Webby nomination and being able to raise money. It kind of keeps you back in it to want to stay with it longer and longer and longer to build this amazing thing. So I'd say we kind of reassess. I personally reassess probably on a monthly basis what the goal is.
Yeah, and so how do you manage your people in general and with regards to that? I mean, people join the company, it's a startup, so the stock options are obviously going to be one of the driving factors, hopefully not the only. Hopefully the inherent work of being at, in that vertical, working with a team is a reward as well. But how do you manage people just in general and with regards to that issue?
I think I don't know if it's a how exactly, but I think one thing is just I was talking to Karen about this earlier actually, just kind of having the expectation that management takes time and having the respect for that is really helpful because especially starting from a few people where there's sort of zero time allotted for management in particular, and you kind of have the notion that if we're 3 and now we go to 6, we're going to be twice as productive. And that's simply just not how groups work. There's overhead for communication and frictions and things you need to address, and if you don't address them, people leave, or you just end up spinning your wheels because different people are going in different directions.
So management takes time.
Yes.
Take the time to manage, which basically means, if I may translate, take the time to talk to your people.
Yeah, and don't resent that time either. I mean, if it's always a pain in the ass and you're saying, oh, I thought I was going to have all day to work, but now I have to sit down and have this hour-long discussion with you and why you're unhappy about something, then that doesn't actually work. You're not really communicating with the person. But if you kind of set aside time and expect that and say, hey, what is it that you actually want, and how can I or we as the management team or whoever make it better for you, and it's a legitimate commitment, then it's easy. Then it's just talking to people.
What percentage of your time do you think a CEO, founder at a startup should spend building versus managing?
I think it depends on the role. Personally, I'm doing a lot of coding still, so my role is about half and half. I'm coding about half the time and doing general management and other CEO kind of stuff about half the time.
Philosophy on when it doesn't work out. You have a meeting with somebody, they're a pain in the ass, they are going to be the squeaky wheel forever, there's nothing you can do to appease them, they're just cantankerous. I mean, 1 out of every 25 hires is going to be like that. What do you do? What's your philosophy?
What kind of meeting? When an employee doesn't work out, or a partner?
Yeah, let's say you got an employee, you hired somebody, you thought they were going to be great, but they're just a pain in the ass and they're just negative and they're bringing the whole team down. What's your philosophy of dealing with that?
This is a real learning point. We've gone through our share of people, and I'd say don't expect people to change dramatically in the amount of time that you have as a startup. If we were talking about 5 years and 10 years, you could say, okay, put this person in a program of some, give them classes and stuff. But we're talking weeks and months are the typical startup timelines. So if you see that something's not working, be honest about it. And either if it's not working and there's no way to make it work, then you need to part ways. If it's not working and there's a way, something that the company can change to put that person in a better position, whether it's a role change or just a communication style change that doesn't require that person fundamentally changing themselves, then it can work.
You've built some products quickly. Some of them you're taking time. Compare and contrast, minimal viable product versus, say, Dave Marin's slow product movement, MVP versus SP? Yeah.
It's tough. There are things I like about both of them. I definitely like the slow ventures idea that good stuff takes time. Period. It just you can't. Every time we've tried to take a shortcut, you never end up saving time. You always end up creating more work because you have to go back and do it not just a second time, but sometimes a third and a fourth time. So on like a feature level, when you say this thing needs to do this, take the time that you need to do that right. Period. But at the same time, in terms of minimum viable product, that I would agree with that too. And I think even Wanderfly, as simple as it is, I think we launched with more than minimum viable, and I think maybe going back again, I would have cut the feature set even a little bit, or not the feature set in terms of how the user would think of it, but on that result page, a lot of additional work. I think there's some stuff there that went into it that people don't appreciate because they don't need it yet. So I would have kind of gone more with minimum viable product, but still taken the same time, possibly more, on those individual key features that we needed to get right.
How are you building this sort of core community? Are there any best practices you can share in terms of building super fans, super users. I mean, there's no email list by MailChimp on your site that I can see. You know, if I come to the site and then I leave, I mean, how do you keep your relationship growing with me? What's your outreach plan, curation plan for super fans?
I think a lot of that is actually best answered in our forthcoming version 2. We found that we do have a good number of those super fans, and there's some social features on the site, just kind of the generic share stuff, and people use it, but it's not really baked into the product today. And so what we're doing with version 2 really is baking into the product. And to give I guess a preview, and this is launching in really a couple of weeks, some of even just letting casual users say, I've been here and I want to go here, letting more advanced users actually go and kind of create some of those custom lists, and then from that point making it really, really simple and fluid to both see who's there. I guess that's another thing we do right now is you can see who's at the place, but you can't really do anything with that. So giving people a very natural way. So I guess it's best practices. In terms of best practices, it's Facebook. They just do they do it really well, and as fast as they are changing in terms of their plugins and stuff, there is a ton of stuff that they are exposing to developers that just is tremendously helpful. And so what some of the stuff we're doing is not just who lives here, but who lives here, and making it really easy to click on one of those people and post on their wall that you're thinking about going to this place.
Start the discussion.
Yeah. So not trying to be Facebook. We don't want to create our own social network, but using Facebook. It's a really deep Facebook integration.
Yeah, socializing your product on Facebook. Hey, speaking of minimal viable products, what if a product like the one I'm showing you here existed where you could simply, while at an establishment like a restaurant, send a message to the owner of the restaurant to solve your problem, like say, the service was slow. What would you think of a product like that?
I love that.
You do?
I had that idea in college and called it Waitless, WAITLESS, and I think wrote a part of a spec or something for it, not just to the owner, but to actually have a mobile device thing where you could put in orders and see the status of your food and all this kind of stuff. And I'm shocked that I'm sure it exists somewhere in the world, probably in Japan or something.
And it's come all the way from Japan. It's here today, and it is Skweal. Skweal.com, Skweal, Skweal.com. Skweal on the problems at your favorite restaurant or establishment. Get in touch directly with the owner of the business and solve your problems. Get free dessert. And if you own a business, you can sympathize with the owners of other businesses. Sometimes you got a bad waiter or waitress or something. They're screwing up the whole system. The owner wants to know if they're not treating you right. And this, you put in your problem, SMS directly to the owner of the business, and then the owner of the business SMSs you back or emails you, whichever you prefer. That's Skweal.com. That's Tyler Crowley's company. I'm just giving him a free plug. He's got this whole rider now, and all these conditions. His agent says we got to give him a free plug. Hey, listen, congratulations, Evan, on the success of the company. Congratulations on closing the round. You got a year to make this happen. I think you're going to make it happen. It's a wonderful product. I can't wait to see 2.0. Everybody go try Wanderfly. Follow Wanderfly on Twitter, twitter.com/Wanderfly, correct?
Yep.
Great name, great company, great team. 10 people or so? Dozen people in New York?
Yep, about 10.
About 10. Any positions open if people want to join an amazing team and get it on the ground floor on this?
Yeah, we're looking for another Java developer.
Great. So if you would like to, you can email Evan@Wanderfly. Is that right?
Yeah. That's an alias. I'm pretty sure that alias works, or it's Evan.Schneyer at Wanderfly, but I think Evan works.
Yeah, so it will work by the time you watch the show on your iTunes. And continued success. Thank you for letting me invest in it. I think it's going to be a huge success. And I'm basically booking my vacations now through this. Like, I'm using it for ideas. I mean, we do have to figure out that there's that space between being so good at suggesting stuff and then closing the deal. But I think you're on the right trail, and that's really what entrepreneurship is about. You have this great idea, you iterate, and then you get to the promised land. I'm absolutely certain Wanderfly and Skweal are going to get there. Thanks for being on the program, Evan.
Thanks for having me, Jason.
See you when I'm in New York. Wow, I just love entrepreneurs. I love when they're building something beautiful. I mean, I'm really a sucker for beautiful UI, beautiful domain name, and solving a problem. It's like you look at Skweal, you look at Wanderfly, they do share a couple of things in common. Great names, elegant, simple design, and they solve a big problem. It's really not rocket science. If you're at home and you're trying to build a startup, you don't need to do 50 things. You need to solve one important problem and just do it well. Whatever you do in life, do it concise and to the best of your ability. Whether that's, excuse me, I got to get this call. No, just do whatever you're going to do in life to the best of your ability. And come up with a great domain name, come up with a great UI. These are all the details that matter, and at the end of the day will make you successful.
The real thing is, in this day and age, you have to do something that makes people say wow.
The wow factor.
Because the wow factor will get them to evangelize and make things incrementally easier. So find something that you can make people say wow about.
Right. Not everybody, but some people will say.
There's plenty of good ideas out there. And there's plenty of pain points. But can you solve it in a way that will make them say wow?
When I got my first Netflix DVDs in the mail, and I watched them and then sent them back and got that email back that said they received them already and my new ones were coming, I just said, wow, this is so much easier. Wow. You're right, it is the wow factor. And Skweal, it's the first time I used Skweal. I was like, my steak came and it was cold, it wasn't cooked properly, and it's a $62 steak, and they comped it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a true story.
Right. Not for you, for someone else, that was a true story.
Is it a true story?
Yeah.
I heard that story.
Yeah.
Was it a $62 steak?
$162 steak.
What happened?
They didn't comp the steak, they comped the whole meal.
What happens if people start abusing this? Have you thought about that?
They can't.
What if they, because if I'm one of those people who uses my phone and I'm tied to my phone number, so if I put in 5 bogus reports.
Your Skweal history is transparent.
Oh, really? So people will know this person's a complainer.
Correct.
Wow. Changes it. Okay. All right. So if you complain too much, that's not good.
No, it depends on how valuable your feedback is.
So if
you can complain all day long, but if it's there's people who complain and it's valuable feedback, and there's people who complain and it's not valuable feedback.
Did I ever tell you the time I went to get soup?
No.
I go to get soup.
Uh-huh.
The woman brings me the soup. I said, the soup. There's something wrong with the soup. And she looks at me and says, what's wrong with the soup? And I said, there's something wrong with it. She goes, well, tell me what's wrong with it. I said, can't you see? And she goes, no, what's wrong with it? Is it too cold? I said, no, it's hot. Well, what's wrong with it? Is it too salty? I said, no, it should be fine. She goes, well, I don't know. Can I taste it? And I said, aha. No spoon.
You killed that joke.
I killed it. I told it totally wrong.
Yeah.
You tell it.
No, you've told it before, and you normally do it fine.
I told it right, yeah. I can't.
I think she goes, well, let me have a taste. Let me see your spoon.
Aha.
Yeah.
Aha. All right, well, this has been another great episode of This Week in Startups. I love having these great entrepreneurs on. Thank you to @GoToMeeting for making this possible. And if you would like to have a half-hour free consultation from the man who built the brand known as Skweal, as well as the one who built the brands known as Engadget, Autoblog, Silicon Eye Reporter, TechCrunch 50, Launch, Mahalo, Twist, blah, 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 blah. You just go to GoToMeeting and use the promo code START. You send the receipt, just forward it, Control-F, contest@thisweekin.com. We pick one randomly. After we pick that one randomly, we'll pick it based on merit. Who knows?
I think we're also revealing who won the .co one.
Oh, we're going to reveal that, soon. We will give you a free consultation for half an hour if we pick you as the winner, and then we will republish it. So it becomes like a 30-minute commercial. Like we just did. It's sort of like a 30-minute Shark Tank or something like that. It's a 30-minute launch conference, 30-minute TechCrunch 50. Okay, we'll see everybody next time on This Week in Startups. Oh, and thanks, Squarespace.
That's what it's all about, man. They said money is the root of all evil, but funny how it feeds my people. Yeah, we ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you. Yeah, money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah, we ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you.